So it's still not looking good for Marvel's The Eternals. It's been rotten for a few days, and it just keeps getting worse. It still continues to fall. It's now at 57%. And I don't really think there's anything Rotten Tomatoes can do to change that fact. And of course, what makes this whole situation hilarious is this film was made specifically to pander to the critics. The critics who applaud it. Look at the diversity. But this time it seems it must be a really bad film. It must be an absolute shit show that is getting dunked on like it is. But I mean, it was expected. Like I've said, as soon as they lead with this whole diversity that puts the audience off most of all. And usually it just ends up in just trash. But this will be pissing Marvel off quite a bit, because we've always got to remember that they don't care what the audience has to say. They only care what the critics say. That's all they care about. They couldn't give a shit less if it gets a 26% by the audience. They're only bothered by what the critics give it. So they will not be liking this. There'll probably be some repercussions to the critics for just absolutely demolishing it. They'll probably be, they won't get their goodie bag next time or something. That's probably what's going to happen. But it's going to be interesting to see how much further it drops. This is the worst reviewed MCU film since For the Dark World. And with all this after the bad reviews from the critics, now even the box office projections are plunging. So it's not even looking good for the box office at the moment. So originally for its opening weekend, Box Office Pro originally projected back in the middle of October that Eternals would have a pretty big opening weekend between 82 million and 102 million. Box Office Pro also projected the film would gross anywhere between 210 and 280 million in total at the domestic box office. So they now claim that the film will have an opening weekend between 67 and 92 million. On the high end, that would be the highest grossing opening weekend of the year. However, on the low end, that sees the film tumble to the 5th highest opening of the year. And then for the total domestic gross, between 165 million and 215 million. So it'll be interesting how it does at the box office. Because even if this film does pretty well with like 400 million or something like that, it's then got the next Spider-Man film that's coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if this new Spider-Man film gets close to $1 billion. That will be quite it's gonna make more than this film. That's obvious. When you bring in Tobey Maguire back, that's really what most people are going for, to see Tobey Maguire. But I wouldn't be surprised if the next Spider-Man film gets close to $1 billion. It seems more than likely that it could. Maybe just under it. It's kind of hard to say if it would hit $1 billion, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. And of course, you've already got people defending it tooth and nail. Really, from people like this, it's got nothing to do with if the film's good. It's about the message it sends. It's about, it's got diversity and representation in it. Therefore, we need to protect this film. And anyone who says anything else against it, that's sacrilege. Like this person here says, my brain cannot comprehend all this Eternals hate. It definitely feels targeted. So what she's trying to say is, if you hate this film or you just don't like the film, you're racist, you're sexist, you're anti-LGBT. That's them setting up their little defences. Because they won't... When the film comes out and we've got people that we actually trust, like people on YouTube, to give us an honest review of it, these people like this can't have a conversation with people that actually are honest, or like they're not looking at it from the message standpoint, like a lot of these people do. They only care more. They care more about because it's got diversity in it. Where like we all know that doesn't dictate whether a film's good or not. And usually, in my experience anyway, anything that leads on their diversity, it's all about. They usually tend to be not very good. But you're going to hear a lot of this whenever you criticize it. It's just, oh well, you're just racist. That's just their go-to, because they can't be asked trying to like defend it honestly. They'd rather just say, no, you're racist, discredited. That's what they're going for. And she even says in this tweet as well, well, I'm a fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, so it is what it is. However, I don't trust everyone on there to not be racist or homophobic and let that sway their opinions. What world are you living in? That's my only question to you. People act like we're living in the 1960s. But you can tell quite clearly it's the people that you'll see like defend the shit out of this film, it's because of the message. That's why they'll protect it. Anything you say against it, sacrilege. That's what they'll be going for. And that's what it always comes down to. Whether it was Black Panther or Captain Marvel, you couldn't criticize the film. Because Captain Marvel was apparently the first female lead, which is bullshit. And then the Black Panther it's the first black superhero. Then you had Shang-Chi come out, oh, it's the first Asian it's like, no, it isn't. But with those films as well, they were protected. You couldn't criticize them. Otherwise, you're racist. You're a misogynist. All the buzzwords they can come up with. But this is what they do every time. They always lead with, well, anyone that criticizes the film I happen to love because of its message is really what it is. It's just a big old bigot, a big old racist. And it's a total fabrication. My main criticism of this whole diversity and representation thing is I don't care. I don't care that it's diverse. It's like, we've seen diverse films before. Diverse films have been about for bloody ages. But they like to pretend like, no, it's always been white people in films since cinema's been about. And it's a complete lie. To those people, I think, well, clearly you ain't watched that many films then. But it's going to be quite interesting to see if this falls even more on Rotten Tomatoes. It will be quite funny if it does. And I imagine that, I think the audience score might be higher than that. I reckon you'll get a lot of these types, because they care more about the message. You'll get a lot of them that will go on here to get the audience score up. So I imagine that score will go up. But like I said, Marvel don't care about the audience. They couldn't care less what the audience thinks about it. They only care about what the critics have to say. But they won't be happy about this. They will not be happy one bit. And then this whole "you're racist if you don't like it" thing, that whole rhetoric is going to be following this film until people stop talking about it, which I don't think will take long, because people have already stopped talking about Shang-Chi. They stopped talking about that about 3 weeks after it had been out. But you're always going to have these people that they'll just accept anything Marvel puts out, and then that just means we just keep getting more shite rather than good shit. But I mean, the new Spider-Man film that's going to come out, I think that's obvious. That's going to do well. Obviously, it's still just the jangling of keys. That's what it is. But maybe if they see, oh well, people have responded better to this one, maybe they'll stop with their preachy shite. Maybe they give it a rest, and we can just get back to some good old entertainment, good story and shit like that, rather than just a diversity project. But we'll keep an eye on the score anyway and see if it goes any lower. But that's all I've got to say on that anyway. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.